Are you woozy, watching, worrying, whining, or a warrior? Woozy is a fumbling fool, shot submissive sheep, head down, butt up, happily munching the poisoned grass. Watching sees the signs of sabotage and crisis cascades, but says and does nothing, hoping it will all magically disappear, or at best, to side with whomever wins. Worriers see the illegal infiltration, the malice of Western medicine, the trainee teachers in pedo public schools, but fret and even talk tough. But tough talkers aren't. Whiners are sunshine patriots and Christmongers, rhinos complaining, then complying by funding the Phoebes all the way to the payoff. But every hundredth is a warrior. And the warrior knows the only constant is war. And the prime rule is to know when you are in one. The only variables, where and generation. Then discern friend or foe. Type and foe determine strategy, logistics, and tactics. But ultimately, all terrain is human. And as every ROTC cadet used to know, but genius generals conveniently forget, war is not won on defense, nor in the air. Besides nuclear, bombing builds resistance, always. The muddy, bloody, mucky ground must be taken by boots on it. And the only way to win is to attack. I'm a retired soldier, special agent spy, turned whistleblower, warrior. Served in sabotage, rejected and redeemed, failed and forgiven, betrayed and saved, rejecting revenge, humbled and blessed, repurposed and redemption. As chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller, now America's intelligence officer, following God, leading my family, and any that choose to join on our long Trail of Tears walk to faith and freedom. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Welcome. Lots going on today. Going to jump right into it. Breaking, Candace cracks Charlie's security cover-up, but also breaking, Iran's economy has collapsed. So I've got a lot to cover. Going to get right into that. But remember to try and support the show if you can. Go to jeffreyprather.com to keep the show free. I'm one of the last free Liberty luminaries that is not bought off, and that's because of your support. Appreciate it. Or go to patreon.com/JeffreyPrather or jeffreyprather.locals.com. So anyway, breaking, Candace cracks Charlie's security cover. So she's been doing the work of the FBI, which of course just does the cover up now because PATEL is pathetic and Bongino is blathering. But her back photos showed that there was no exit wound, no blood on Charlie's back. So that completely destroyed the 30-06 series, which had already been destroyed. And anybody who's still advocating that is in on it as far as I am concerned. But she's broken a lot, and she's very careful in the way she presents it so as not to taint any of her findings. And this is, of course, maybe later for civil suits. Because, of course, we're not going to get any criminal suits because criminal suits have to be brought out of the government, and the government is clearly in on it. But besides the back photos, the bloodless back photos, there's a lot of people looking at the exploding microphone now. I've stayed away from that because that's really out of my lane. I made some initial mistakes. I recanted those mistakes, asked pardon. But the black plastic shards that are on Charlie's hand and also in the vehicle and on the ground. A lot of people are now taking that very seriously, and that is looking more likely. And of course, the expertise there is with Mossad and CIA, respectively, in that order. But what she has really broken recently was going back to Brian Warpal's interview on the Sean Ryan show, which, of course, he lied extensively through that, saying they couldn't have drones when it was since been shown that you could have submitted requests for drones. And, just very, very damning there. But Candace has publicly questioned the security planning because she also showed a clip recently of how Harpo was talking about how, oh yeah, we're planning 2 weeks out. Every security we're working. We've got a special app. Everybody goes out. We're way ahead of the planning curve. And she just plays this clip, lets it go. And then she alleges that Charlie's next speech, which was going to be on September 11th at the Charis Bible College in Woodland Park, Colorado, had no advanced security planning in place. And she states she has a source involved in that event's planning, revealing a panicked meeting that occurred after Charlie's death, during which organizers realized they had no security plan in place, raising suspicions about foreknowledge of the tragedy. That is, Harpel is saying, yeah, for every event, we are 2 weeks out. We are really doing the work. And of course, he's been proven lies about the drone ability. And of course, there were drones up there. So, I mean, the contradictions and lies mounting from the TPSU inside staff, and it's always somebody close, just like with Jesus and Judas. It's already somebody inside. But Owens claims she received a tip from someone directly involved in organizing the September 11th event, confirming that no security measures permitting questionnaires or police coordination had been arranged, contradicting Brian Harpel's public statement about extensive pre-event planning. And she played this clip. It was very damning. And she specifically called out Brian Harpel, head of security, for failing to coordinate with Colorado police departments, questioning how a high-profile event could lack any security planning, given its proximity to the previous tour stop, and of course, of the date, September 11th. You know, if you were going to emphasize any date for security, it would be September 11th. And of course, she also is referencing the Fort Huachuca theory, although she has since ruled out Erica Kirk, Congressman Mark Modell, and Cabot Phillips based on alibis, while noting she has not received any updates from Harpel. And Harpel was the main subject there anyway. So what they did with the event was they quickly transformed it into a vigil following the assassination, including the chief of police involved in emergency responses, highlighting the lack of prior preparation. But that lack of prior preparation indicates foreknowledge, which means they were in on it. And again, their corruption makes them incompetent. When you're going to run an op, whatever phase you're doing, I was the tactical guy, you know, I was the arrest guy for the most part. But if you're the undercover guy, who I worked with extensively, all those are arts, and you develop your skill set. And by the time you're a senior agent at GS13, you really know what you're doing. You're mentoring the younger agents on how to do it, whether it's an older undercover mentoring a younger undercover, or, you know, an older tactical guy like me mentoring a younger tactical guy on how to do it. There's an art that develops. You just don't do that. You know, you see all these, you know, Ocean's 11 movies and Mission Impossible movies where they are rappelling down an elevator shaft for the first time ever. That doesn't work in real life. You got to practice that stuff, you know, all the time because there's so many things that go wrong. So to have no security set up, this is a tell. It really shows that there was foreknowledge of the assassination, and that means they were in on it. Of course, that is not proof. She's covering her sources, but this is pattern analysis continuing to build up, and it is very damning in my estimation, because what you do is take intelligence information, analyze that becomes analyzed intelligence information. Then you look for patterns in there, and from there you go to work on your investigation, where then you can find proofs, which is fact-based evidence that is admissible in court, where intelligence, because of sources and methods, is not normally admissible in court. So Candace is doing an incredible job. I think she's the #1 talk show now in the world. Tucker is doing a very good job too, but he's much more careful about what he's saying. He's still kind of praising Trump. On one show, Nick Fuentes was getting on him because he was saying frack a lot, because he never says that, just because he was trying to Nick Fuentes said he was trying to build an audience. You know, my audience stays very loyal and stays very small because I am censored and shadow banned. But there is nobody like Candace, even though Candace and Tucker are often mentioned together, who is really doing that level of sophistication of investigative reporting that should be being done by the FBI and by the local police departments. But of course, they are simply covering up. So that's a sea change. She has really turned the claymore on that. And nobody I know is still believing, the FBI. If they are, they're really hopeless. They are woozy. As I said at the beginning of the show. But Candace is really breaking this, cracking this Charlie security cover open. And of course, if Harpo would come forward and say, no, we had it covered, you're wrong. No admissions like that, no, you've got that wrong at all. So while Patel continues to prattle on, and now Bongino has left, and he's blathering and trying to talk tough, nobody is buying that. He is done. And I don't feel, there's people like, oh, he's a hero, he gave up all his money. So I don't think he's a hero. He comes out and says the job is tough, and the job is tough on families. Hey, newsflash, all of us agents knew that. I'm divorced because I was in special forces, so I was gone all the time. Then I was special agent, I was out all the time. Those divorce rates are high. Everybody knows that. That just goes with the territory. And to whine about it, which he is unacceptable, because everybody is aware of that. And now talking tough, like he's going to make a difference. No, he is part of the deep state. He covered for the deep state. He covered for the kidnap, torture, and murder of little girls. There's on X. I've been putting a lot on X this morning. Follow me on X, please. Like, share, subscribe on X, like, share, subscribe on Rumble as well, where they're on the Epstein airplane flying to Epstein Island. There's a little girl's voice, like, where are you taking us? Not a young lady's voice, not a woman, a little girl's voice. And of course, they ignore her, but you can hear that clearly. So Bongino is in on that, period. And he does not deserve anybody. And if you're listening to him, if you're going back to that, you're a fool. That's all I can say. And you're going to be continually fooled. And then Patel is the humiliation factor, just showing that the FBI's deep state can control whatever puppets, and he'll say whatever he's told to say, and he'll do whatever he's supposed to do. And it's really pathetic. But the real benefit there is, no intelligent, discerning American is listening to Patel or Bongino or the FBI or the DOJ or Bondi at all. They're listening to Candace. Hopefully they're listening to me. I do see my stuff filtering down. Netanyahu just said, I'm reading about the Roman Empire. I'm like, wow. Now Tucker's talking about the American Empire, and I know Tucker and I used to correspond a long time ago, and I've seen a lot of my stuff show up there, so I'm not surprised there. I've seen it show up on Bannon, who won't have me on because I'm not a fan, because he was a big fan of Epstein, but maybe Bibi is actually listening to me now as well. So that's really important to get out, but there's a lot more happening. Let's see. I see you guys on. I see somebody talking about a small caliber palm pistol from the security as well. Yeah, I've seen that. That may be. I don't think that's the shot. I have taught only very close hold, covert. Index body shooting, which is a very elite skill that only a few have. And that's a very difficult shot. Even with a regular pistol, it would be an even more difficult shot to hit the neck like that. It may have been part of an activator for the microphone, but yes, I'm aware of that. But I'm not really. I'm not really following all of those as well. Somebody says they saw his security detail getting medals from BB personnel. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen that. That would be interesting if they were getting medals, because what would they be getting the medals for? So you can email me that, jp@jeffreyprather.com. I'd like to see that if that's the case. They all worked for Israeli intelligence. Yeah, a lot of them had as well. Somebody else says even Bongino's staff is worthless. If you make a comment of any kind about the Jews, you will be blocked. No question. So there you go, right there. Yes, and he's all on Zionism as well, and for Israel as well. So that's very crucial. But also, it looks like my prediction of Trump ending Chinese communism may be coming true. And I've been saying for a while that, and I credited Trump. For those of you who think I'm just down on Trump, I was a Trump supporter. I've still got the intro up about Trump. I'm telling Andy to take it down because it's no longer appropriate. But I did that special intro to honor Trump and his second term. But Trump has turned. He is America's first Jewish president. I came out with it first. Mark Levin has confirmed that. He has never denied that. He has said he is not a Christian on video. He's letting 600,000 Chinese into the country. He's ensuring that China will get Venezuelan oil. But his long-term legacy goal of ending communism in China the way Reagan ended communism in the Soviet Union appears to be coming true. And I lived through this. I went in as a second lieutenant under Reagan with the military buildup. So there was the economic buildup and there was the military buildup. And Trump is doing that too. He has just doubled, I believe, the military budget. So Trump's actions are forcing China's inevitable economic collapse because China, like the Soviet Union, cannot compete with the United States economy. And that's mainly, of course, because of the small business entrepreneurs, not big biz and big tech. But Trump's actions are forcing China to face reality, and the economy is on the verge of collapse. And of course, Iran's economy has collapsed, and I will get to that here in a second. But China's impending collapse has been on a knife edge for a long time. And some people have reported that China released COVID to stabilize their economy. And so that may or may not be true. But again, it's coming out of Fort Detrick, it's DARPA, it's democide via the DOD, whether it is vectored out of China, but it's not the China virus, it's the DARPA Detrick virus. And it is a bioweapon, and it is democide, it is the government killing its own people. But the CCP-led economy is failing. And it is in a dire state. For the past 3 decades, China has been on the upswing of a super cycle that's on almost uninterrupted expansion of the country's capacity to manufacture, consume, but they never let the middle class expand. So without the middle class, you don't get the small business entrepreneurs because they're state controlled, which is what makes America's economy great. Not big business, small business, entrepreneurs, and the redundancy of that. So this era of expansion was not only a boon for Beijing, but it helped fuel global demand. Countries relied on China's hunger for speedy modernization and industrialization to supercharge their own development. Even American companies saw China as the next great global market and bet accordingly, and they lost on those bets. President Xi has shifted the CCP's national economy from manufacturing to national security. So he's turning to empire building, just as Trump has turned to empire building, because the American economy and the Chinese economy have become so interlocked because of China's unrestricted warfare policy of 20 plus years, where they said, we're going to take on America, but everything but kinetically, and we're going to dominate their market, which they have. But because America is hopelessly in debt, and China is hopelessly in debt, and there's a lot of talk that China's debts to America, or rather America's debts to China, may be invalidated and not being paid. is an answer for both countries, which may be why Trump is cooperating so much with Xi. But both countries are now shifting away from economic focus. Trump's easing off on his tariff war. Remember, the tariff war, I said, was designed specifically for China. The other countries really not so much. Now, Trump has just said a 25% tariff on any countries doing business with Iran. That's a separate issue I will get to here for the economic war that is being waged and cyber war and psychological operations war that is being waged against Iran. But he seems to have changed his mind in that regard with China because China, via Xi, has shifted to military expansionism, conquest, rather than commerce, just as Trump has shifted from commerce to conquest. And that is because of the failing American empire and the failing Chinese empire, and because they are linked. So this is not about economy anymore. It's all about advanced technology and weaponry. And it's been clear for years that Chinese real estate market has been in trouble. China has a population of 1.4 billion, but it has built housing for a population of 3 billion. Many of the mega developments became empty monuments to Beijing's insatiable desire for growth. That's why you see another 600,000 coming out of China into America. Real estate was a quarter, 1/4 of China's GDP. It inflated the national economy, and now property sits empty. The value of the property is rapidly declining, polluted skies and empty buildings. Chinese expert Gordon Chang has also highlighted these issues with China's economy for years. He notes China's banks are almost certainly insolvent. Many of them have collapsed already. Many of the factories are closing already. So they're bad. They're trying to show their bad loans is good. When the regime runs out of liquidity, it will collapse in the biggest bank crisis in history, very much like Iran just has. And now we're seeing this pattern emerge from the deep state, from the intelligence community, who is, I think, monitoring and guiding all of this. Now, add to this President Trump's announcement the U.S. will increase its military spending by 50%. That's $1.5 trillion per year. This action puts tremendous pressure on China. Trump is about to bankrupt China the way Reagan bankrupted the Soviet Union. It's the Soviet-style trap for China. He's exactly following Reagan's playbook. Trump plans to raise U.S. defense spending by 50% to $1.5 trillion, about 5% of the GDP. This isn't about Russia. Russia's economy can't keep up, but Russia's economy will be okay because it's built on gold, oil, natural gas, precious minerals, and it is anti-tranny, it's anti-DIE, it's doing fine against Ukraine. This has nothing to do really with Russia. This is Reagan versus the Soviet Union version 2.0. And this is the way that China communism falls. And that's exactly how the arms race bankrupted the USSR. And President Trump is strategically, economically destroying the radical communist running China. He's doing this without firing a shot. And so this is something I predicted, and this is something that I certainly give him credit for. Chinese communism will fall, just like Soviet Union communism fell. Communism always falls. It's a false system. It's not based upon human nature. It's not based upon history. It's not based upon scripture. No one's ever found the proletariat. It never works. So, that is good news. I'm going to give you good news when I have good news. Let's see. Exploding microphone. Yes, Walker. Exploding microphone theory is the latest theory. I'm not following it closely. I have no expertise in that, but it would follow the exploding microphone, exploding pagers that Israel has bragged about. It's, same technology. You put it in a pager, you put it in a microphone. And again, that leads back. There's a lot going on. There are several people doing deep dives on that. Trigger Smart is doing a deep dive on that, whom I don't know. Valhalla, I don't know him, but I do know several vets who are unhappy with his lack of ethics. Clay Martin being one there. So there's a lot of that if you want to research that. I'm not really trying to follow that closely, but the shards of black plastic that we're seeing are indicative. There's also new photos coming out. Trigger Smart and Valhalla and another guy who's I can't think of his name right now, showing Charlie's shirt blowing back in the back, and also his neck in a hydrostatic movement, which could indicate a charge inside the microphone that he was wearing. So I'm just mentioning that. Pre-cut quarter-size disc of steel mesh put a small charge, maybe a tiny camera to get ideal on-target picture. Yeah, that could be. Who benefits from TPS? Well, Israel, BB, TPUSA, all of those for sure. So anyway, so my prediction that Trump's secret legacy is to destroy Chinese communism coming true? It certainly looks like it. He hasn't announced that because, of course, if it doesn't happen, he doesn't want to look bad. But moving on, the LA U-Haul riot setup sets up the deep state domestic religious war. That's really important to note. So, the protests that have emerged in all 31 provinces in Iran suddenly, after decades of theocratic despotism, which admittedly the Persian people have hated for a long time, but they have not been able to do anything about it, are suddenly bearing fruit. But the question would be, why now? And of course, this corresponds with Trump and Israel's focus on Iran and Trump's bombing of Iran initially. But then we're seeing these riots in major cities. Of course, LA, and the U-Haul driver drives into the anti-Iranian government protest. So that was clearly planned and purposeful. But what was he actually going to accomplish by that? Well, we're not going to know because the investigation isn't going to go anywhere. The investigation will be stalled because they don't want you to find out what's really going to go on. But I would say the intelligence agencies are definitely behind that happening. So remember, who else uses U-Haul vans a lot? Well, Patriot Front uses U-Haul vans a lot. So again, we see patterns there. If we had real criminal investigators, real 1811s working this stuff, we'd see those patterns. Now, I mistakenly said that Patriot Front ended itself when Ray resigned. I was wrong about that. Somebody on X corrected me. Thanks for that correction. But the fact remains, a U-Haul van and Patriot Front using U-Haul vans and the Patriot Front outfit is the FBI cadet outfit. It's the blue shirt. Well, it's a powder blue shirt and khaki pants. And all these young guys look in shape. It's just impossible to not see connections therein as well. But there won't be a real investigation because I believe that would reveal deep state origins. Why? Well, first is to stir domestic religious war fervor between Christians, Muslims, and Jews. I've been talking about that for a long time. I've been talking about the hypocrisy of the Islamification of America, especially by these ex-FBI agents who run these seminars. Well, who brought the Islamic terrorist in? The CIA. Who let him stay in? The FBI. And now the FBI is running seminars saying, hey, they're here. Typical Hegelian dialectic there. But secondly, to foment the rally around the flag phenomenon for Trump's and Israel's Iran war. So now the rally around the flag phenomenon is something happens, is that after 9/11 or after October 7th, people have a patriotic fervor. It's called the rally around the flag. And so you forget rationality and you just rally. I had a longtime student who really respected me who went over to Israel to fight and got shot. And I said, well, you're being set up. there. But the rally-around phenomena is a real phenomena. It happens. And this is the dual purpose, I believe, to stir up religious war in America, to keep everybody off balance, cascade crisis. And that U-Haul driving into the crowd was certainly something we've seen before. We've seen that technique before. We've seen the U-Hauls before. And the real thing is the timing of it. Look at the timing of all of this happening. So the timing is being executed flawlessly to increase the patriotic fervor, rally around the flag fervor via religious war by American Christian Zionists in particular and Jewish Zionists against Iran to create the mood for Trump's next move. And Trump's next moves looks like major war with Iran. So that's really important. And remember, I've said that, and I'm not happy to say that, but we will get into that. But more. But that's what the LA U-Haul certainly looks like. Meanwhile, a lot is happening with Iran, and it's happening fast. And I've got to say, I think it is happening faster than the deep state intelligence community predicted it would. So I think they're really happy with what's happening. I think they're reporting happily back to Trump that their plans are working better than they thought they would. So Iran's currency, and this is breaking right now, way past China's, is totally collapsing. Their currency is actually virtually worthless at this point. The Iranian rial has effectively collapsed, plummeting to an unprecedented low of more than 1.47 million per US dollars. You'd have to have wheelbarrows. This is like the Weimar Republic stuff. The currency crash has triggered a wave of nationwide revolutionary protests as the cost of basic survival spirals out of reach for millions of Iranians. So the monetary system that was set up by the government has failed completely. And on Monday, the dollar was quoted as a high of 1.47 rials in the free market of Tehran, marking a catastrophic decline from 2025 levels. For comparison, the rial traded at roughly 70 to the dollar during the 1979 revolution, and has now lost approximately 20,000 times the value over 4 decades. So this is a fatal crisis, and the regime is trying to hold on to power. It will not be able to survive this. It cannot survive this. This is a death knell for the Iranian regime, and that is breaking news. Whether we're going to hear about it, they're going to cut down the internet, but the analysis of this is the currency has entered a full reflexive death spiral. Domestic trust is zero. And of course, any economy has got to be built on trust that the government can back what it has. And the government backs it through commerce or through conquest. And again, we've seen America turn from commerce. Trump has shifted from commerce to conquest in Venezuela. He's openly declared in Venezuela this was about conquest. And China is following suit because China's economy is linked to America's. So sovereign backing capacity is zero in Iran. The structural implications of this is all imports halt immediately: fuel, food, medicine. And so that is effectively an economic blockade of the country. Plus, Trump has just said, put in place a 25% tariff of any country doing business with Iran. And there is no reason to do business with a dead regime. There's no benefit for China or Russia to continue to do business because these are beyond lame ducks. These guys will not survive this. So all imports are halted immediately. This includes fuel, medicine. Black market becomes the only functioning economy. That begins to build the resistance even more, because when you're building resistance, you want to build parallel institutions. As the government becomes more oppressive, the resistance movement rises, and that has exponentially happened here. And this is clearly through the intelligence agencies. This is without a doubt infiltration through espionage and sabotage through interdiction of institutions via cyber weaponry, and also psychological operations and economic operations, without a doubt. So the command hierarchy is fracturing now. The IRGC, which is the intelligence apparatus, cannot be paid in a stable value. The police and bureaucrats defect when currency loses purchasing power, and provisional governors begin improvising parallel governance to survive. So that is the 31 provinces will try to hold power on their own, just like the states in America would try and hold power on their own by developing their own localized systems. When the system goes local, it doesn't need the governmental system. So the death spiral is going to be complete here. We're not going to hear a lot about it because this is all classified, and also because they have shut down the internet. Although somebody, it looks like they have brought in Starlink. Who will have brought in Starlink? Well, those would be intelligence apparatus. Because again, X is an intelligence collection platform and information operation dissemination platform, but it's also the most free platform we've got at the moment. So the global signaling effect of this is the collapse removes all credibility from Iranian negotiating positions. So if you recall, the Iran government was saying, we'll negotiate with Trump, which is huge because, they're always saying, Trump is terrible, America is terrible. Going back to the Iranian hostage situation, Delta Force's first failed mission, and they're saying, no, we'll negotiate. Well, they're in trouble. Well, Trump has now said, nope, we may not need to do that because there's no need to negotiate with a failed state, that they hold no power. They have no negotiating power. So this collapse removes all credibility from Iranian negotiating positions. Any attempt to stall U.S. action via talks now appears as a bluff or desperation. So that's really crucial to understand, because the intelligence preparation of the battlefield through economic sabotage is complete. And so the battlefield is prepped for kinetic action, what that looks like. It does not, to me, look like U.S. boots on the ground. That's terribly unpopular. But U.S. boots on peripheral nation-state ground with collateral casualties is almost a certainty at that. Where we'll see is more Mossad on the ground, because they have the capability, they have the language expertise for that. But allies like Russia or China will not intervene to save a dead currency and a dead government. And this green lights kinetic action without risking a major power backlash. That is because China and Russia, the major powers, and Egypt and everybody else will back off because this regime is dead. That means that kinetic action is going to go. And so that's why Trump is saying, no, we may need to act before we talk. He's not going to, I'll tell you right now, he's not going to talk to them. There's no point in talking to them. Those are dead guys. He's not going to talk to them, but he is likely to move on this. And this is breaking. This is history. So, but also understand this was totally engineered. The sanctions were precision aimed at oil revenue and refined fuel choke points. This is not indigenous on its own. Trump's 25% tariff order made reintegration into the global economy impossible. He has effectively isolated them, very much like Roosevelt's Japan blockade, except it's much more effective. Swift capital exit, telecom shutdowns, and diplomatic isolationism created a vacuum. The market just priced in the fall of regime. No currency equals no supply chain, equals no governance, equals no control. The currency didn't just collapse, the state did. So that is big news and very important news. and intelligence analysis there as well. And thanks for Crookshanks for reposting the stream there. Appreciate that. And I'll keep trying to check on comments there as well. So remember to support the show, patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather, or, if you can, jeffreyprather.locals.com. But anyway, Trump has already been briefed on military strike options for Iran. And the numbers of protest deaths are very inaccurate. They go from the hundreds to the thousands. Nobody really knows, and those are propaganda anyway. But there was on YouTube, Trump seeing a demonstration a while back of SOCOM capabilities, and it turns out that was likely the Maduro operation that he was actually watching. So he's probably been watching the Iranian operations now as well. So tragically, war with Persia appears to be Trump's real and true focus, motivated by greater Israel planning objectives and fulfilling Revelation scripture. Venezuela was simply the setup and train up for Iran. This major intelligence prediction and prophecy I'm making here. I'm not happy making it, and I'm certainly not recommending folks to join Trump's military. Although I don't think that there's going to be boots on the ground in Persia, but on periphery, and there will be collateral casualties, as I've said before. But the New York Times and others are confirming that Trump has recently been briefed on a series of new military strike options targeting Iran. There well over 100 cities and towns, protests have raged since the end of December. Buildings and even mosques have been burned, cars torched, and police officially reporting shot and stabbed. So in a tyrannical regime, when you take on the police, that is very, very significant. That's very different than taking on the police in America, where there are checks and balances. Amid an internet blackout across the country, which has made accurate information hard to come by and verify, there's a battle of narratives and info war happening. Who's that happening by? That's by CIA. And CIA resources, likely with Mossad assets because of the language skills there. Starlink terminals were said to be smuggled into the country during the 2022 wave of protests. Who was doing that? Again, the intelligence assets. Again, Mossad probably executing, CIA, NSA probably supplying. Trump met with the oil executives on Friday and warned Iranian leadership not to kill protesters, and said, if you continue to kill protesters, that means we're going to hit you very, very hard. So there's the line in the sand very clear, and they're also about to publicly execute, which they do in Iran. They hang people from cranes in public executions as well. Yeah, I've seen Nas et al. The Cabot Phyllis guy got pizza tattooed on his lips. The TPS USA organization and Erica Kirk deeply involved in child trafficking. They are all over that. Deeply involved. I haven't been covering that, but I will get back to that. But Trump later narrowed the warning. I tell the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting because we will start shooting too. That's a clear declaration of kinetic operations. Now, does that mean boots on the ground? No, not likely at all. But does that mean airstrikes? Well, yeah, of course that means airstrikes because they've already done airstrikes. The fallacy, of course, that I mentioned in my opening intro is always that everybody always thinks they forget history and they think that they can win by the air. And you can never win by the air. The only way you can ever win by the air was nuclear war at Japan, and that was killing, hundreds of thousands of civilians. It's always about boots on the ground. So when Trump talks about we're shooting, he's talking about decapitating military structures, but I don't think he's talking about boots on the ground just because would be so unpopular. And Iran, Persia is an ancient and huge country. Nobody is going to hold Persia. period. Just like nobody is going to hold Russia, just like nobody is going to hold Afghanistan. And the people the generals and the politicians who advocate that are lying idiots or fools, period. They simply don't understand history. Is Iran headed to central bank control and digital currency? And is Iran's collapse a positive for American patriots? So that's a good question from Hedgeman. So is it headed for central bank control? Yeah, it likely is headed for central bank control because the banksters are wanting to control it. Is Iran's collapse a positive for the American patriots? No, it is not. This is a positive for Israel. This is again being directed. Trump is being directed by Israel to do this. And Trump also just came out and said to Iran, and again, this was just this morning, is, excuse me, Iranians, help is on the way. So that connotes there are plans that are happening. And he is talking about being kinetic, and there's nothing. As I said, there's no reason to hold back from being kinetic. Is that a positive for American patriots? No, it isn't, because the other thing Trump says then is MEGA in the text in the Truth Social. He says MEGA, make Iran great again. So what does that mean for us Americans? That means we are at least third now. We are behind Israel, and we are now behind Iran in Trump's focus, because he just said MEGA, make Iran great again. So no, this is not a positive. We don't need to spend American soldiers' lives in the periphery states with collateral casualties. We don't need to overthrow this regime. Yes, it is a theocratic, despotic, tyrannical regime that the Persian people have resented for decades. That is all true, but regime change never works. Now, of course, I'll get into that in a second, because the CIA is going to say, no, it's worked for like 26 years. But no, this is not a good idea. What this is Trump realizing that he cannot fix the economy. Our economy is in a death spiral as well. And so empires keep themselves alive two ways: by commerce. And he thinks, I believe he has done everything he can for commerce. And because of the death spiral with China that I talked about earlier, that links the American economy, there's nothing more he can do there. His only other option for empire sustainment is conquest. And he admitted in Venezuela, this is about conquest. This is about us taking their stuff. That's what war is. I'm taking your stuff. Give me your stuff. No, okay, I'm going to take it. I'll take it by force. That's simply what war is. And that is what is happening. That's what happened in Venezuela. And that is what is going to happen now on a larger scale in Iran. C-17s and C-5As have been pre-staging U.S. small arms and vehicles near Iran's border the past 2 weeks in case we need to assist the coup. I didn't know that. So C-5As, very large aircraft, C-17s, jet aircraft. I've jumped out of them. Iran fiscal collapse precludes them from moving into the digital ID. Their government collapse is a positive for the world. Well, I would not necessarily agree with that. The stability of dictators has always shown to be better than the regime change that follows that. We've seen that over and over. So I would not say that. Is it a positive for the Iranian people? Yes, certainly. But is it a positive for us? No. Is it a positive for the world? No. I would disagree with you there. Not at all, but very good point about the C-17 and C-5As being pre-staged with small arms. Those small arms are likely going to go to the resistance, much like how I worked the Contras back in the day. And so that would be CIA paramilitary supplying that, and some special operations, tier 1 special operations, and maybe some special forces elements there working. And they'd probably be training outside of Iran, very much like we did in my day, where the Contras would come over into, cross the border into Honduras and get trained and then go back. Probably very similar, something to that effect, which would happen. Because again, this is exactly following, Reagan's model, and that's exactly following Reagan's model. So that's what that looks like as well. But CNN is saying more than 544 people have been killed. I've seen numbers as far as 2,000. Don't really know. Al Razul Mosque was burned. But these counts are very inaccurate. And again, there's a lot of propaganda. But Trump is saying the USA stands by to help. Now he's saying help is on the way. So this has triggered an economic paralysis. And what potentially can add oil to the fire is if foreign interference continues to get talked up with the U.S. signaling the threat of a potential intervention. Oil and gold creeping up as the Iranian unrest unfold, and it illustrates the insurance value of commodities. The commodity market has seen a strong role for a broader commodity length in strategic portfolio allocations. That is precious gas, oil going up. And Trump, Iranian businessmen have had to suspend activities because of Iran's internet shutdown, especially those companies which are dealing with staff abroad. The shutdown is so severe that even the banking system isn't operating, or something as simple as removing money from an ATM cannot be done. So it's a dead system. It is finished. And Trump has told reporters on Air Force One that Iran reached out yesterday and proposed holding talks. And he said, we may meet them. He's not going to meet them. There's no point. He's going to let them suffocate and die. People, when you see the movies where somebody gets their back broken, their neck broken or something, they're automatically dead. They're not automatically dead. They've got to suffocate there. And they're convulsing and moving around. For those of you who haven't seen death close up, the movies, they fall dead right away. That may be true with battle rifle bullets. But a lot of other times, pistol rounds, neck breaking, by the way, they're convulsing for quite some time, as they are suffocating. But Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says police and security forces brought protests under control. That's, of course, a total lie. Now, they have published large-scale demonstrations, but again, they're not going to be able to pay those guys. And they're also saying Israel is directly responsible, and also Americans, through their remarks by promoting violence. I would agree with that. And Trump said Iranian leaders called him yesterday. They want to negotiate, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. So there he's given the tell is before we even meet with these guys, we are going to have to act. Citizenship is not a spectator sport. That is very true. And again, that was my intro about, and that's again, why you should join Team America and get involved. And we are working constantly behind the scenes. The amount of work that Team America, that Christ Chaplaincy, we just had our Christ Chaplaincy mentor and mentee call, is just incredible what we have accomplished. But we are not big marketers, and we're very quiet about all that. But serious folks doing incredible work, and I'm really in awe of Team America and Christ Chaplaincy and what they have accomplished. But to give background, now that Trump's got the Venezuelan oil check, Iran is next. After decades of admittedly hated theocratic despotism, why is Iran so suddenly ripe for revolution? Because Mossad and the CIA decided the time is right and the right POTUS is in place to reenact Iran regime change again. The American economy is hopelessly indebted and empire failing. Empires project power via commerce and conquest. Trump has moved from advocating commerce via tariff war to openly admitting American empire conquest in Venezuela, and Iran is next. And you got to remember that the CIA overthrew Iran's democracy in 4 days. On August 2013, the CIA publicly admitted for the first time its involvement in the 1953 coup against Iran's elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. The document provided details of CIA's plans at the time, which was led by senior CIA officer Kermit Roosevelt. He was also on D-Day. If you've seen The Longest Day, you remember seeing him hit the beach with his cane, grandson of U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt. Over the course of 4 days in August 1953, Roosevelt would orchestrate not one, but two attempts to destabilize the government of Iran, forever changing the relationship between the country and the U.S. And this is why Iranians hate the U.S. So always, again, studying history and then applying human nature and scripture, which is revelation, which is prophecy, explains everything. But, if you don't look at human nature, if you don't believe in human nature, if you don't believe in scripture, then you're not going to get it. So Mohammad Mossadegh was a beloved figure in Iran. And the CIA, via Roosevelt, overthrew him. Because during his tenure, he introduced a range of social and economic policies, the most significant being the nationalization of the Iranian oil industry. So Great Britain had controlled Iran's oil for decades through the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. But after months of talks, the prime minister broke off negotiations, denied the British any further involvement in Iran's oil history. Britain then appealed to the United States for help, which, of course, those of you astute saying that the British government controls the American government. I'm not so sure of that, because you look at how impoverished and behind the times Britain's government is. The British Empire is now England. The Roman Empire is now Italy, and the American Empire will be eventually America. But there were massive protests in 1953, leaving almost 300 dead. So we're way past that number in firefights. And it was a coup orchestrated by the CIA and British intelligence, and the Shah was reinstated as Iran's leader. According to Stephen Kinzer, author of the book All the Shah's Men, Roosevelt quickly seized control of the Iranian press by buying them off with bribes and circulating anti-Mossadegh messages. He recruited allies among the Islamic clergy. So, now we have this theocracy. Why do we have this theocracy? Because of the CIA. Mossadegh was a threat. The last step entailed a dramatic attempt to apprehend Mossadegh at his house. It failed. Mossadegh thought he was in the clear, but Roosevelt hadn't given up. He orchestrated the second coup, which succeeded. Mossadegh was placed on trial and spent his life under house arrest. The Shah returned to power and ruled for another 25 years until the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The 1953 coup was invoked by the students and the political class in Iran as a justification for overthrowing the Shah. So what was the justification for overthrowing the Shah? The CIA's overthrow of Mossadegh. So it is a self-licking ice cream cone that we are going to do again, because we have forgotten history. We don't understand prophecy. And don't believe in human nature. And the exiled crown prince wants Trump to diverge from America first and intervene sooner. And so that's probably why you see Trump saying MAGA, make Iran great again. Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah, deposed in the 79 revolution, has spent 5 decades outside his homeland. He just did a CBS News interview, described his role as a bridge, not the destination, expressed readiness to sacrifice everything, saying, how could I not possibly be prepared to die for them? To die for liberty, to die for saving our nation, as he sits outside his country doing nothing. Typical, but he is the mouthpiece that the deep state is using right now. And he said, this is putting an end to this regime. He said, this is not just past demonstrations, it's different. Today, the ask is not just for reform, or for that matter, for economic demand. It is now putting an end to this regime. In other words, regime change. And we all know how regime change always works out. But what does regime change do? It keeps the CIA and the deep state in business. And of course, it does Israel's will, which is why now America is third to Iran and Israel, and then America first. And Pahlavi directly appealed to Trump, praising him as a game changer and saying we need action to be taken. And so this is, very bad in my estimation. And I'm certainly against it. And I'm certainly totally against U.S. military being involved and U.S. intelligence being involved. But clearly, U.S. intelligence, deep state, directed by Mossad. This is not unlike in 53, where I think this was primarily CIA driven. I think this is now primarily Israeli Zionist Mossad driven. And they do not have our best interests at heart, as I've said. Islam is actually closer to Christianity than Judaism. And we see all the signs of this. There's this commentator, Nick Sorter, conservative journalist Nick Sorter, has been detained in Minneapolis after he was forced to drive through a mob of violent anti-ICE protesters. So I don't follow Nick Sorter, but I just saw this story as typical of a Laura Loomer type story, where the reporter makes the story by becoming the story. He was forced to drive, instead of reporting on the story, he was forced to drive through the anti-ICE mob. Why? Because that's to create the story, to create the conflict. That's all that is. This is what Lori Loomer does all the time. And so thank God federal agents were there. But why is this happening? Well, because likely he is in the employ of the deep state. All of this is coordinated. All of this is to build religious war between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and particularly now focusing on Iranians, which are Shia, by the way, and to also then rally around the flag phenomena for whatever Trump's actions are going to be in Iran. But they certainly look like they are going to be kinetic. And that is where we are at today. And again, this is because of the American Christian Zionism psyop that has really taken hold. And this is where so many are worried about the Islamification of America, while they're ignoring the Zionization of America that has already taken place, in my opinion. And speaking of that, I reposted something on X that many think a Messianic Jew is a Jew who believes in Jesus. That's a common misconception. A Jew who believes in Jesus is called a Christian. There's not a special name for that. A Messianic Jew is a syncretist who, despite believing in Jesus, chooses to retain post-temple, and this is true, post-temple, non-biblical, non-Torah, rabbinic traditions developed in opposition to Christ, which is true. It's all anti-Christic. Purely Talmudic traditions aren't any more biblical than Quranic traditions, and both are in similar error. When one follows Christ, it requires letting go of false religion completely and embracing Jesus so fully that traditions vented in denial of him have no quarter in our lives. And that is all technically true. And I'm even guilty of that, because we like to do, I like to honor my wife's Jewish heritage and do Shabbat and do the prayers, Baruch atah Adonai, it's Baruch atah Adonai, Borei Pri Hagafen, but blessing the wine, blessing the bread. But that is really technically true. So lots of breaking stuff today, and I'm not seeing any more questions. But okay, let me see. There's a statement. So no-win scenario for Iran regimes. They either stay in power and risk getting bombed by the Israeli U.S. or collapsing, which they're experiencing now. They're not going to be able to stay in power. They're done. The best they can hope for is exile. The worst they can hope for is getting tortured to death, ended up like like Saddam or like I can't think of his name. Somebody tell me real quick. But that is the intelligence report for today. A lot of important intelligence in there. If you have questions or comments there, put them in the Rumble chat real quick. So I will address those. Otherwise, I am probably going to wrap up. I encourage you again to join Team America at jeffreyprather.com. Join the chaplaincy at christchaplaincy.com. Both are doing great work. I was talking about this in our, we have our quarterly mentor-mentee meeting, which is on the way to discipleship, where a lot of people are frustrated with the situation of the world. Well, it's a fallen world because of our fallen nature. There's never going to be a political or legal answer to all of this. The answer is spiritual. The answer is Christic. The answer is Christ, which while you are being perfected in Christ, you continue to fight for justice, but not expecting it, because Yeshua says, I have overcome the world. That is very true. So that's why it's so important to have a spiritual basis. Otherwise, you're going to be frustrated all the time with this, because you're always going to be behind enemy lines. You're always going to be underwater. That's just the way things are, and you got to understand that. Oh, Bala Custom says those awards were given to those guys because they were members of the Jinsa. The video had been removed from YouTube. Go figure. But those seals were awarded by Bibi for something, but it was way before Charlie. Okay, so it wasn't. So the awards were not related to Charlie after that. So that's good to know. Thank you. Appreciate that. Bala Customs there on that. Give me some of that. Says Mullah in big trouble. Yes, very much. And this is happening very rapidly. Again, I think this is happening faster than they thought it would. And so what's that mean? Well, that means they're not going to be as prepared as they should be, because they're never prepared for regime change. And they always fight the last war. This is what happened when I was activated in 03, 04 for the Second Gulf War for Operation Noble Eagle, where everybody thought, the PSYOPs will work again, where you got 10,000 troops coming out with their hands over their heads because of the leaflets saying, hey, come out with your hands over your heads and we will feed you and send you home. If you don't, we'll bury you alive in the sand. But instead, what happened was, everybody faded, and the conventional war was over and won fast, and it turned into a resistance movement. And then everybody was afraid to say that for years. There was like 3 of us at DIA who were military intelligence majors with special forces and special operations background, and we recognized that the conventional war had been ended, and that now we were in an unconventional war, which means you got to change your tactics. Everybody was afraid to say that because they were thinking that was Vietnam, but actually most resistance, fourth generation movements do fail. And it wasn't until Petraeus came along, adopted a special forces major named Gantz proposals to turn all of that around after a lot of lost blood and treasure. And so the geniuses and smart little homosexual, metrosexual suits up there running this are probably thinking, this is great. We're ahead of schedule. Things are going well. And that's probably what they're telling Trump. And Trump is probably buying into this. But this will go south, because regime change always goes south, because when you incorporate history, prophecy, scriptural prophecy, revelation, and you see human nature involved, this always fails. And this will fail too, and there will be disastrous consequences. And I'm saying that this could be even worse than Afghanistan and Iraq put together. Why? Because not much of a country in Afghanistan. Substantial country was in Iraq, but Persia is an ancient empire and very evolved and large army, and not to mention that they're always trying to develop the nuclear capability. But that is a major power, and going after that, as if going after that is akin to going after Russia or China, which is what Trump is doing. Trump has gone after a proxy war with Russia via Ukraine that has involved American troops killing each other. That has happened. I've talked about that as well. And now Trump is also going after China. And so if he's going to go after those major superpowers as well, then going after Persia as well is not much of a Gaddafi. Thank you, Wire. That's who I was trying to think of. Gaddafi. Thank you for my memory there of that. So that is, if you're already going after Russia and you're already going after China, well, why not Iran as well? And if everybody's telling you, hey, it's all going so great. Now, of course, the Russia thing is failing. It was failing. It is failing. It will fail. It's never worked out. China, as I've said, looks like it is falling. Looks like his legacy is coming true. And all of these Iranian cyber, economic, and PSYOP operations look to be ahead of schedule and going swimmingly right now. So I would expect even more buy-in from Trump. And with the buy-in, then comes mission creep. And with mission creep, of course, comes boots on the ground. Again, I don't think boots in Iran, on Persian soil, but on the periphery. And of course, if you're flying aircraft, aircraft always get shot down. And then what do you got? You're back to hostages. And we're back to the Iranian hostage situation yet again. So that is the intelligence report for today. I think it's very significant. And we should not be getting involved in this. Washington was against all these foreign entanglements. And that was just Europe, where we had common religion and common language. He would certainly totally be against all of this as well. But even more important and close to home is Candace has really made the FBI obsolete completely with all their money, all their headquarters. PATEL looks ridiculous. Bongino looks absurd. And those are counter institutions. So that's the liberty luminaries, such as me, such as Candace, others, Mike Adams, are turning as the regime becomes more absurd. You can't be more absurd than Patel and Bongino. As their credibility drops, Candace, my credibility arises. Mike Adams, Sean SGT as well. Bala Custom says, it is interesting they worked for the Jewish Institute of National Security for America, and then they were Charlie's detail. Yeah, they were infiltrated. So that is infiltration via espionage, and then it is interdiction via sabotage. And that's, I'm very experienced in that. I do competitive intelligence in the GRIN space there. Genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology. None of you guys see that stuff. I do great work in that area, though. Very well paid for all of that as well. That's exactly what has happened. Israel has a long history of infiltrating other nations, and they've done it very well in the Middle East because of language capability and look, and they've also done it incredibly well in America. And so we're carrying out America's agenda, or rather Israel's agenda here, which is to overthrow the Iranian regime. But again, history shows that every time we overthrow a regime, it ends up worse. And we could easily end up with more hostages again. And that will be the death knell of Trump's legacy if that happens. But he seems to be going right along with that. But I appreciate you all. And for those of you who have been, concerned about my health a little bit, I am doing a lot better. Thanks for the prayers. I really appreciate that. And please follow me, subscribe, like on Rumble, on X, support the show, jeffreyprather.com. Support the show at patreon.com/jeffreyprather if you can as well. HMAC is not going to happen tomorrow night because one of my senior students, Lewis, is not available. He's been chaplaining with one of our old students who needs a triple organ transplant. So we'll do that next week. So remember, most do not believe there is a call, so they never hear what they do not listen for. Most that do ignore it. The few that hear it do not understand it. The fewer that understand it, even fewer answer it. For the handful that answer, even fewer show up. For the few that show up, fewer stand up. For the paucity that stand up, few begin the mission. But fortitude is faith actioned. When faith emanates, fear dissipates. The truth is still the truth, even if no one believes it. A lie is still a lie, even if everyone believes it. You can feed your fear or fuel your faith. Focus on your faults or the mission. Not your mission, God's mission for you, which is never what we think it is or should be. Not whether you are good enough. You are not. We are not. I am not. But if you stay on mission, Charlie Mike, continue mission with divine providence, God will fulfill his mission for you, through him, for you and yours. And that is the miracle of faith.